Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome into this week's edition of the P. Coffee Brown Show. I am so excited to be in the building with you guys on tonight. We have some amazing thought leaders in the building on tonight. Excited to have the fellas here with me. We are in round 2 of the Legacy and Leadership series conversation that we had. And we started in the conversation just talking about what legacy meant, what leadership meant, and how that applies from a male perspective as far as fathers and husbands and pastors and leaders all have to address legacy and leadership, what that looks like, what that translates into, and how they can truly add value to lives. So tonight we're back again and so excited to have our new panelists in the building for the first time ever. We've got Reese Dickerson in the building, and also Pastor Lawrence Knighton is in the building. We're so excited to have them. And of course, my great friend, Pastor Joseph Talbert Jr. is also in the building with us tonight. So we're super excited to have all of these amazing thought leaders in the building. Now, we're going to be talking from a natural perspective and also from a spiritual perspective about this particular conversation tonight. We've got some questions on the table for the fellows. But before we get started, I want you guys to briefly introduce yourself. Let our audience know exactly who you are and where you're hailing from. We're going to start off with you, Lawrence Knighton, in the building. Welcome in, sir. Welcome.
Good evening. Hope everybody's doing well tonight. My name is Lawrence Knighton. I actually grew up in Syracuse, New York for my first 28 years. Been down here in Albany, Georgia for more than I've been in Syracuse. And I literally am appreciative of this opportunity to be on here tonight. I actually am a pastor here in Southwest Georgia. My wife and I also own a business, Nova Counseling and Consulting here in Albany, Georgia. And there's the private side. My wife is a licensed professional counselor. And then there's the business side where we have probably like 29 employees. We have the business side with that. And so we're just grateful for this opportunity to come on and talk about legacy and leadership.
That's what's up. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Reese Dickerson, what's going on? How are you, sir? Reese, are you here with us? Reese, are you here with us? Can you hear us? Okay, I wonder what's going on with his. So we'll wait on Reese to get back to us. JT, what's going on, sir? Welcome in.
He's muted.
You got to click your button. You're muted, JT. You're muted.
Both of them are.
Okay, something's going on with their connection. Okay, there you go. There you go.
Yeah. How you guys doing? I'm Joseph Talbert Jr. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. I live in Jacksonville, Florida now. And I'm a speaker, a teacher. I teach the word. I speak at organizations. I run an investment group as well. One of my favorite things is to show people how to make money with their money. I feel like that's a part of our Christian call as well. Is to not be broke so we can bless people.
I love it. I love it. Reese, are you with us now? I don't know. Something's going on with his end. So we'll see if he gets that rectified while we're in the segment tonight, because I'm talking to him, but I don't think he's hearing me tonight. So we'll see if he can get that rectified. But in the interim, we're going to go ahead and get this conversation started. So there was a couple questions that came up when we were talking about legacy and leadership. We laid the foundation initially when we had our first conversation, but I want to get more in depth. I want to get more in depth from the male perspective as it pertains to relationship. JT, you kind of inspired and sparked a little bit of something too. You had a wonderful dialogue that you did here recently. And you had a discussion about leadership as far as relational leadership is concerned. And you kind of mentioned a few different things. So a question came to mind. How do you make it easy for a woman to follow your lead? What does that really translate into? How does that look like?
I guess it would be two dynamics. One is, are they married already? And so if they're married already, I might have one answer. And if they're not married already, I would probably have a different answer. And so a lot of times for me at this point in my life and the way that people are, I like counseling and talking with people who are not married yet. And so for those who are not married yet, how do you get a young lady to follow you? Well, first, I believe it has to be the right young lady. And I think that so many guys are, and I hesitate to say it this way, but I mean, I might as well. I think that a lot of guys are taught in an inaccurate or incomplete way, because we have this idea that, he who finds a wife, the Bible says, whoso finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from God. And that's like the only verse that people kind of pivot foot from when men are out here looking for a wife. And so what I feel like the Bible really is trying to get you to understand is the same way that we follow Christ because of who he is. As a man, when I'm looking for a young lady, I'm looking for the young lady that's suitable for me, like in Genesis, when he says, I will make him and help suitable or meet for him. That word meet means suitable. So a lot of guys are dating women that are not suitable for them. And I think that's a huge part of it. I don't believe in the idea of forced submission. I just don't believe in that. And I know that a lot of pastors and a lot of people teach that, but the Bible, when we get saved, we're real quick to say, I'm not under the curse anymore. I don't have to be broke. I'm not under the curse anymore. I can be healed. Well, they fail to remember that a part of the curse was her will belonging to you. So if we don't have to be cursed anymore, her will doesn't belong to you anymore. You can't force her to submit to you. You have to marry the woman or date the women that are suitable for you, that are wired the way you're wired, that have the similar goals that you have, the same values, so on and so forth. And when you do that, it takes out 80% of the why won't she do what I say, conversation. Because I tell guys all the time, why should she do what you say? Her relationship with God, we're not talking about that right now because that's a different question. But why should she do what you say, brother? Are you going where she wants to go? Did you pick a young lady that is going where you're already going? My spiritual father said it to me like this one time. He said, the way it's really supposed to work is you're on fire for God running 100 miles an hour. And you look over and there's a young lady running 100 miles an hour on fire for God in the same direction, like in the same lane as you. And you're still running and you look again and she's still there running. You say, hey, you know what? Do you want to run together? But she's already running in the direction you're going. So she doesn't feel like she got to change you. You don't feel like you got to beg her to do nothing different. You guys are already on the same path. So that's what I teach young people or people who are not married yet. It's like, baby, are you suitable for the gentleman that you want to marry, or do you feel like you got to change them? And I ask the young men, hey, is this young lady suitable for you? Is she moving in the direction that you're already going, so you guys can come together and do some pretty spectacular things? If the idea is for you to become one and not to stay an individual. You can't be going in different directions and become one. It just doesn't work. And I really don't, everybody says different things, but just the nature of spiritual, scientific, metaphysical, however you put it, you can't be going in different directions and become one. It's not possible.
That's very true. And because there's no way to plug everything together. It's like, I got an outlet and I got a plug, but the plug is on the other side of the room and the outlet is on that side. I got to get
see
to the
it
plug
so many times.
Yeah.
Yep.
That makes perfect sense. Lawrence, piggyback on that for me. How do you make it easy for her to follow you?
Well, I think that if you look in Genesis, when God tells Adam it's not good for a man to be alone, I think one of the things that we really need to look at is the fact that, number one, Adam had a plan for his life. He was already working in his purpose. And so when he says it's not good for you to be alone, I'll make you a helpmeet, like my brother just said, he was actually saying, I need you to have someone who fits into the plan. The easiest way for me, I think, to get a woman to follow is for a man to, number one, know where he's going. Because the problem is, you want a person to follow you, but a woman has to have something to work with to know where she's going in order to follow you. Because women in our lives, they play a part in helping us to fulfill the purpose that God has for our lives, and vice versa. And so if a woman doesn't have something to work with, it's going to be extremely difficult for her to follow a man, because he doesn't know where he's going.
That's the truth. It's funny that you say that, because we were talking about that in another live event that I was doing, and this one young lady was saying, this guy was talking about relationships, and he was saying, that he wanted he said that he wanted a woman in his life. And so she said, well, what's going on with you? And she started asking all of these probing questions about his life. And he kept saying, I don't know. So she said, well, I can't follow if you don't have a GPS. She was like, I need a GPS. I can follow as long as you give me a GPS. I'm good. But if you don't have a GPS, I don't know how we're going to get there. And the guy kind of stood there and he thought about it. He was like, oh, you know what? It sounds like I need to work on me before I even start looking at an opportunity with a woman, because I don't have a GPS right now for somebody to follow. I said, yeah, it's like us getting in the car and we're in a new city. We got this address, but nobody plugs it in. Okay, so just having that conversation with him was interesting, because he kind of didn't really realize that he was not putting himself in that position for somebody to have a desire to follow him, or giving a building block for somebody to come in and say, oh, I can put these pieces together. Oh, okay, you got that. Oh, I can put this there. I can add this. It's like that concept that we've heard always. You give a woman a sperm, she come out with a baby. You give her a bag of groceries, she comes out with a whole meal. You give her a house, she makes it into a home, and so on and so forth. Just different thoughts when it comes to relationally being cohesive and together. So I'm gonna move on to Jason. Jason, listen, how do you make it easy? How do you make it easy for her to follow?
How do you make it easy for her to follow? That's a tough question, to be honest, in my mind. Because it depends on the person that you connect with, number one. I've had a few situations myself where I thought I was easy to follow. but fellowship wasn't necessarily in the cards. I'll say it that way. So with that being said, we have to be clear. I'm sure as it's already been said about where you're going. You have to be intentional. You have to be communicative. But um, what's that? It's been going around a lot lately, where it says, "I thought communication was the key, but I found out that comprehension was more important." Because a lot of times,
That's the truth.
because a lot of times we can communicate, we can say all the things we want to, but if they don't, if the other party doesn't understand exactly what it is you're trying to, where it is you're trying to go, or what it is you're trying to do, it doesn't matter how well you communicate it. But at the same time, you have to be able to find out who you're talking to. I know I manage a lot of people for my day-to-day job, and I've learned over the years that sometimes we communicate the way we receive information, and we don't necessarily communicate the way the person receives information. So I would definitely tell anyone that if you're trying to be a leader, if you're trying to be someone that's guiding someone or a family or a group, definitely know your audience. Know your audience and how they receive information. Because a lot of times you're thinking, I'm spelling it out for you, and they're like, I still don't get it. And the only reason why they don't get it is because you're not spelling it out the way they receive it. So that's why I said, for me, I don't see it as a clear cut black and white, because it takes two people to communicate. And then when we look at the word communicate, it's actually an exchange. So if I'm not exchanging information for you to be able to talk back to me, or to be able to enrich your life or to move you forward, then clearly my method of communication needs to be assessed.
I love it. You know, you brought up something that made sense, because this last class that I was taking, they communicated what the requirement was. They gave all the information, laid it all out on the table, but the comprehension was definitely not there. I was like, what? Like, it's in black and white. If you read line by line by line, but like you just said, they communicated, but I did not comprehend based on how they communicated the information. And so I literally had to meet with my professor to have a conversation with him about the comprehension element. And once he broke it down, broke those elements down, I was good. I was like, oh, I got this. And I literally ran for it from there. But initially, just reading the information, I couldn't get it. And so when I talked to him and he broke it down, and he kind of broke it down to layman's terms where it made sense to me, and he literally would wait to make. He was like, are you get what I'm saying? Are you following me? Are you following me? Do I need to break it down further? Do I need to, do we need to meet again on tomorrow to break it down some more? How about you send me what you have, and then I'll analyze it and let you know if this is what I'm actually looking for. And so when you talked about that, the comprehension element, it is huge. I think we do kind of miss that piece, because just like even one of my business partners in my new office that I just acquired here recently, I said something to him. He was like, that is not what you said. I was like, that's exactly what I said, but it's not what he heard. So it is what I said, but it's definitely not what he heard. So when we had a conversation and I broke it down to him and we started having another dialogue, he was like, oh, that's what, oh. And I was like, yeah, that's what I said. And he was like, I get it. But that's why it's so important to be able to connect with your person. Like what Joseph was talking about earlier, it's the connection piece. It's like that plug going into that outlet to produce the light. Because I got the plug, you got the outlet, but it's got to connect so we can get that light going to make things brighter in our relationship. So Reese, welcome in. We're excited to have you with us tonight. You were having some technical ministry issues over there on your side of the world.
Well. The devil is defeated and God is exalted. Hallelujah.
But now that
We are
you
here.
have,
Can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you good. So now that you got
Thank
that
God.
rectified, the question of the night that we're starting on, we're talking about legacy and leadership. The question that we started with is, how do you make it easy for a woman to follow you? What is it that you do that makes it easy for her to follow you?
Wow. What do we do to make it easier for her to follow? Be a leader. It's that simple. Oh wow. So that's a great question. So what makes it easy for a woman to follow you? Being able to hear her first. Being able to hear her first when she speaks, hear what she's communicating. Like Brother Jason was just sharing. We may say things a certain way, but if the person that we're communicating to, if the person we're saying it to, they don't get what we're saying, that's the problem. So we lead by example. We lead by serving. I believe you serve first. Any leader who is not serving, he's not leading. He's just somebody on a journey. He's walking. If you can't turn around and see people behind you, that means you're not leading, and you need to reassess what you are or you aren't doing. Mm-hmm. So that makes it easier. When you go back and you're always reevaluating your way of doing things, you go back and you say, okay, so obviously something's going wrong. Baby, what am I doing? Friend, what am I doing? What am I not saying? And you get their buy-in and you let them lead you and you serve them. So
I like it. Leading from a place of servitude. That makes a lot of sense. And then another thing too is that you have to be with a person that's willing to acquiesce, a person that's willing to just be like, you know what, I'm gonna take a chill pill and I'm gonna just watch. I'm gonna just watch this person. A lot of leading by example, a lot of leadership comes from just watching the person, watching their mannerisms, watching their behaviors, right. Watching their repetitions, what right. puts a smile on their face, what makes them irritated, and not even saying anything, just literally watching the person to see how they move about in their own space and in their own energy. So I'm gonna go ahead into this next question that I have. I got another question for you guys in this legacy and leadership regard. The next question that I have on the table, and anybody can jump in on this one. Hold on one second. I got the question in here. Hold on, y'all. Hold on.
I'm going to share something with you, if you don't mind, just real quick while you're finding that question.
Go ahead. I found the question while you do that. I got the question while you do that. You go ahead.
My father said years ago to me, he said, listen, if you're quiet and you make your relationship or your interactions a safe place for them to succeed and fail, if you spend more time listening to them, they will tell you things you never asked. They will tell you things you didn't want to know. So when you make that a safe space for that woman, that she can be herself and fail in a safe space, she'll tell you everything. All you have to do is listen. She'll tell you her favorite color. She'll tell you what she likes to eat. She'll tell you when she likes to go to bed, or what, so you don't have to ask those questions. So if we listen more and we make it safe, we're not as, I'm the man, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to make it safe for her to be herself.
I get it. So I got another question. Here's the next question. In difficult times, where she does not understand your guidance necessarily. Like, sometimes when a man is leading, God has given him an instruction, or the Holy Spirit has downloaded some type of idea, something going on in him, and he wants to spring forth with this thing that's on the heart of his mind. It's in his mind real heavy. He just wants to jump right into it. And she doesn't necessarily understand the guidance. Is the respect that you've developed with her strong enough for her to concede? Is the respect? Do you believe the respect is strong enough for her to concede? And if so, why? Lawrence, I'm going to go to you on that one.
Okay. Can you repeat that last part again?
Yep. So basically, sometimes a guy has this idea, you know how y'all get when y'all have an amazing idea and you believe in your heart that it's going to come to pass, but us as a woman, say for instance, hypothetically, we got blinders on, we don't see it.
Okay.
Is the respect that you've developed in the relationship so strong that she'd be willing to concede, and why would she be willing to concede?
Okay, I got you now. Yeah, I can only speak for my marriage. That's all I can speak for. And the truth of the matter is, I have so many different ideas and thoughts that come to me. And the truth of the matter is, my wife is always like very supportive. And I guess it's like that because of the respect factor that we've had through the years. And even with her, sometimes she'll come up with ideas or send me something that she wants to work on. And because we have that connection with each other, because we know how to go down the same road together, as our brother Talbert said earlier, if we're going in the same direction, we trust each other enough to know that we're in this together. We're on the same team. We're looking for the same goals. And it makes it easy because we have that type of relationship. Now, if I had to just speak from other perspectives, I don't think it would be easy for just any couple, because of the fact that they may not have built that type of relationship, built that type of trust, built that type of rapport with each other to say, okay, I trust you enough. Because sometimes women can be, sort of spontaneous. Sometimes men can be kind of spontaneous. But at the same time, it has to be a situation where they both feel comfortable enough with each other to trust each other enough to say, let's take this journey.
I love it. You said something very important. You said trust. It's basically over time, she's been able to see you be exactly who you said you are. We had a comment from Mr. Walker, and he said something that just literally coincided with what you're saying. She would be willing to concede because you would have had a pattern of success. Have you done what you said you're going to do in times past? A pattern of success is the currency of trust. So initially, but initially, when you're starting down that path, I want y'all to talk to us from the perspective of starting down that path. What is it that you have done for a woman to be able to trust you? And everybody can answer that question. Jason, go ahead.
I think, well, I'll say it like this: the best thing to do from my personal experiences, if you want somebody to trust the plan or the idea, you really have to present it confidently, and of course, initially, it's going to be hard, especially if you have a woman that has done it all for herself before you came into her life. It's hard to break those habits. It's hard to break those patterns. So what you want to do is to build a road of success. So you may have to start off with some little things. You may have to start off with some little things, some little ideas. Don't jump into the biggest ones first. Start with something small so you can develop that relationship and say, well, this did work. This did work. If you have a huge idea and you just have to do it, and it's a God-led thing, like you said earlier, if it's a God-led thing, I'll say it like this. In the Bible, when Mary came to Joseph saying that she was pregnant, I'm sure Joseph was like, yeah, okay. But God sent a messenger to Joseph and told Joseph, no, you're good, bro. You're good. So I believe if it's a God-led relationship, then you need to communicate with God and let God do the rest. If it's a God move, I know personally there were some things I just had to do. Like when I purchased my home here in Seattle, my wife really was like, I don't know. And there were some things that I just did. And by the time she found out about it, it was already in process. Not that it was a bad thing. It was just that there were differences of how to go about it. And it's only because we were from two different eras in understanding. And at the end of it all worked out, and it worked out well. And there are sometimes you're going to have to take chances, but you have to know your spouse. You have to know your significant other well enough to know, okay, this might be taking a chance, but if it's taking a chance to win, then let's win together at the end of the day. There are times you're going to have to maybe have some hard feelings, some hard conversations. But at the end of the day, if you know it's what God told you to do and it's something to better your life, your family's life, there are some steps you're gonna have to just say, look, just trust me on this one. Just go with me. Go with me in fear. Go with me scared, but just go.
I love it. Joseph, I want you to hop in there after Reese, because I saw Reese open his mic. And Joseph, I definitely want you to hop in there. I saw that chuckle on your face. I want you to talk. I want you to chat it up with us for that one. But go ahead, Reese.
Brother Jason, I agree with you. It's presentation. So I've been single for quite a while, but what I'm learning, because I've asked God to put me in a position to get ready to husband someone, not just find a wife, which is a good thing. Sometimes we have to present a way. You know what, baby? I heard the Lord say, or this is what is on my heart to do. What do you think? What's your opinion? And get their buy-in first. Get their opinion. Get them to share their opinion. Well, this is what I think, and then the two of you make that joint decision. Now, as you said, sometimes you're just going to have to say, well, baby, okay, here's what we're going to do. I heard you, we're here. But here's what we're going to do. Let's walk this out together, and then present your successes back to her and give her reason, give her something to fall back on to say, you know what, baby, you're right. You know what, baby, I'm sorry. I still feel some kind of way. And it's not going to always be easy. It is not going to always be, she's going to buy in. Like you said, brother, you're going to have some decisions you're going to have to go in, and you're going to be salty, and you might have to sleep on the couch, However, however, yeah. So there's certain, like I said, there's just certain ways that we make that presentation to her. Get her I believe in getting her buy-in first, because she is your equal, not your. You have to. She's your equal. Her word, her input, her is just as valuable as yours. You are the chief. Your decision may be the last, but we have to make her real, or have to help her understand that her voice is just as important. It bears as much weight.
I love it. So, Joseph, I'm sure you can appreciate this. Mr. Walker came in the comments again. He need to be on this panel tonight. Have a cost-benefit analysis discussion with her. Let the facts do the talking. Joseph, hop on in there.
This internet stuff. The interesting thing for me is can you still hear me?
I hear you. Good. Loud and clear.
The interesting thing for me is I've been divorced and now I'm engaged. What I've learned is the conversation that I had up front. And so a little bit of the difference is I'm not talking from being married and having to convince somebody. I'm talking from meeting someone and having the dialogue in the beginning, laying out the cost benefit analysis in the beginning. And I have, like I said last time, I was a single father for 6 years, raising Joshua since he was 10 months old, and he just turned 7. And, I've dated a few people, but what I learned is this: if you don't trust me, I'm not your guy. I've had conversations with women, and I had a woman say to me one time, it seems like you want to break up every time we have an argument. And I said, no, baby, you're misconstruing. I'm saying we might need to break up because it's apparent that you don't agree with me and you don't trust me. And so I don't want to be in a relationship that's always arguing. I don't want to be in a relationship where I got to convince you that I'm right. You need to go find the guy that you already believe is right. So when you get in his life, you're not getting on his nerves. That's why I laughed when he said sometimes you just got to do it. So I'm very careful. I barely like to counsel married couples anymore. Because a lot of times the man and the lady, they're so bent on their ways and this misinterpretation of what a relationship really is that it's just irritating. So when I talk to new couples, and again, even myself, I've been engaged now for about 6-7 months, well, maybe 6 months. But we had these conversations in the beginning. Hey, what happens if you don't agree with what I'm saying and we get to a stalemate? Are you going to make it difficult for me to do what I feel like God is saying do? I asked a question like that. I said, hey, there's men and women in my life that makes me who I am. The man that you love and how I am, there's men responsible for sowing that in me. There's women responsible for sowing that in me. Are you prepared to now be inside of their wisdom like I'm inside of their wisdom? So we had these conversations in the beginning. And she was able to see my life and hear what I had to say. And because I'm not arguing. I'm not sleeping on the couch. It's not happening. I'm a grown man. I pay these bills. I refuse to sleep on the couch. You got me toe all the way up. I might get in the bed and wrap my arms around you just because I know you mad at me, but I'm not sleeping on the couch in my own house. So I'm a little bit different. I've had these type of conversations in the beginning. And so after having these conversations in the beginning, and it's so funny because I've had older men say, oh my God, you're going to get in trouble now, young man. And I just have to look at him and say, I'm sorry, sir, but I don't get in trouble at my own house. I'm a grown man. I don't know the nature of your relationship, but the nature of mine, we don't get down like that. But it's because, again, it's not about tyrannical masculinity. It's about communication, like my brother Jason said, and setting, I don't want to say setting the tone, but our values. What's our values? What's the culture that we want to create for the kids to see? How are we going to talk with each other? I've had women say, you can't tell me how to talk to you. I said, you're right. So get out. I'm done. Because I didn't yell at you and you're not going to yell at me. I'm setting the standard for how I'm going to love you and how I expect to be loved. But again, I'm very aware that because I'm single, that and I've learned some stuff watching relationships and talking to God. I was single like for 6 years, focused on Joshua. And I started to notice different things in women. I don't want a woman that can't control her emotions. I'm not going to put that around my son. So it created a standard inside of myself. I don't want a woman that can't control the words that come out of her mouth. I'm not going to put that around my son. So it created another standard inside of myself. I didn't want my son to see women in and out. As far as he was concerned, he was like, Daddy, you ain't never going to, at 4 years old, he said, Daddy, you'll never get married because you haven't had a girlfriend in years. But I never put that stuff around him. And again, so I just feel like I might be a little bit, it might be a little bit unfair because I'm learning this stuff now. And so in the beginning of a new relationship, I know how to create the boundaries and the standards that I want to live in. I know the kind of lover I want to be. I'm not going to yell at you. I'm going to give you the world. I'm going to uplift you and protect your dignity. I'm never going to make you feel bad. And I don't expect you to make me feel that way either. So I've had these conversations with my fiance now, which let me know that this is the one. She's like I always say, she was suitable for me. There was no fight. She sent me a text one day. She said, I don't know where this is going to go and how it's going to end up. She said, but there's something about you that I know will make me the woman I've always wanted to be. So I'm all the way in. And when I saw that text, I said, okay, this is the young lady that's suitable for me. She gets it. And I'm going to give her the world with every ounce of my trying. You know what I'm saying? But again, I have the benefit of hindsight, I guess you could say. And so it may seem a little bit unfair as I talk, but for those who are single men right now, you have to set the tone, the boundaries, the values of what kind of man you are going to be, and then not search for a woman that you have to change, but listen out for the woman that's suitable for the way you are.
Can I add something real quick?
Go ahead. Go.
I'm actually like Joseph. I have been married before my wife as well. And I'm looking at one of the comments that says, what about the traumas she may have experienced in the past? Now, one of the things with my wife, because she grew up in a family where her parents fought a lot physically, and one of my wife's traumas is yelling. So I don't yell. I'm like Brother Joseph. I'm not arguing in my house. I'm not dealing with any of that, because that's just not what I do. And so a lot of times when I say this, people don't really believe me. My wife and I have been married 22 years this year. She has never even heard me yell. As a matter of fact, we have never even argued. We don't even use the word argue, because when you think about the word argue, that's what lawyers do. And somebody has to lose. So we disagree. We don't always agree on everything, but we want to be able to come to a healthy place of being disagreeable, if you will, because we came from two different backgrounds. And so that's the thing that we got to understand. I always tell people, talk about your wants, your needs, your expectations, and your non-negotiables. And if you talk about that up front, as Brother Joseph said, that nobody can say I didn't know. Joseph said, I'm not going to have anybody around my kids who don't know how to control their emotions. Emotional intelligence is very, very necessary. Spiritual intelligence, whatever. All of those things are necessary as it relates to when you're dating. You want to make sure that you lay all the cards on the table up front. Like for me, I don't want a woman who cuss. That's just not something I've ever done. I never heard my parents cuss. And again, there are people who have dealt with various traumas. We all have. If you Black, you've dealt with some type of trauma, dysfunction, or something.
Here, and you live in America, my God. Listen.
And so we have to learn how to, as you say, set boundaries and have things in place that says what we will and will not sort of, tolerate, I guess.
And you know what? And I think that it doesn't necessarily, Joseph made a point about where he is now versus, what happened before. But I think maturity has nothing to do with age in this instance. It has to do with your willingness to receive wisdom that if you don't have it and you're younger, and also your ability to be emotionally intelligent enough to make sure that you understand who you are internally, so that it will manifest externally. I remember we were talking in this women's group, and I said the most incredible thing I know about men is if he is really that dude, he's not gonna get no lip out of me. Period. If he's that dude, he's not gonna. I mean, it's gonna just be an innate response to him, like, oh, okay. He said that we're gonna do this, and he said we're gonna do that, and he said it's just gonna be an innate response because that he's that guy, and so a lot of times women, we have a natural desire to lean into a man, to lean into his wisdom, to lean into what he has to offer. And a lot of times, we force something because we have some kind of right now thing that we want to get taken care of. Maybe we want to have a child by a certain date, or we want to move into a home by a certain time, or I want to be comfortable in this kind of space by this particular moment, without considering the fact that if I cannot lean into him naturally, then that's definitely not my purpose person. I literally should be able to lean to him. It should not be forced. There should be no manipulation, no nothing. It should be an innate response to who he is, because he already knows who he is, not just in Christ, but in his natural life, in his physical life, in his fiscal life, in his family life, and in his freedom life, in every aspect of who he is. If he has that level of knowing, and he has that level of that internal what is it? That courage and that posture, it's gonna be easy to just be like, okay, yes, we doing okay, all right, cool, all right. And sometimes it doesn't have to be a road that was paved prior. It's that man, the position of who he is and the energy that he exudes, there is a level of fall in to where it's almost like you can lean against a tree. He's the tree, right? If you were ever to go outside, there's some kind of crazy storm going on, and they'll say, go get underneath that tree. Well, you don't get under the tree and be scared to lean against the tree, because you know the tree not going anywhere. If a man is rooted and grounded, and he has that posture, it's easy for us as women to just say, oh, that's the tree. I'm good. I'm leaning all the way in. I'm good. I know this tree is not going to fall. And even if the tree does fall, or the tree does not fall, but leans a little bit, like palm trees. If you ever go to South Florida and things like that, you see those palms, you know how they just lean a little bit, they kind of roll with whatever comes. They still don't fall. They just lean. They just lean. Sometimes it happens to where something that he may have wanted to do, or some kind of idea that he had in his mind, it may not come to pass, but that won't stop her from his buy-in. That won't stop her from believing in him. That won't change her position of knowing that he's that tree, that she knows that that tree, even if it rocks and reels, the tree is going to still stand. It's not going anywhere. And I think when a man when a man has come to that place in his life, and he has become that person, that level of confidence that's on the inside of him, from his spiritual relationship, from his foundational relationship with those that are around him, those support systems that are in place in his life, and all of those things, when they come into play, you can lean in securely and just be like, I'm rolling with him. I don't care what happens. I'm rolling with him. Okay, all four tires is flat. I'm still rolling with him. We can change the tires, keep going. And it just has to be that way. And that when that happens, I think a woman's buy-in is very, very easy, and it won't be a lot of friction or challenges. Or if there is friction and challenges, he won't even know it, because she's going to take it to the older women that are in her life, that are seasoned, to help her in her journey to be able to stay leaned into this man, and that's why it's so important when we connect with somebody to find out who their compass is. Who is your GPS system? Who have you subscribed to? Who are you leaning into? How are you going to be able to lean into me and you're not leaning into anybody? That's not going to be possible. Who are her friends? Who is the community that she's surrounded by? Is her community solid? Is her community walking in integrity and excellence? Are the people in her tribe solid people? When you see that she has that solid influence, that solid tribe, those solid people around her, you already know that when that tide gets high and that water, gets all the way up to here, almost like y'all gonna drown, she gonna just lean up and be like, okay, I know even if we got to go in this water, I can get back up. I'll keep swimming. I will keep swimming, because she has that tribe around her, those people that she can lean into for that support system. Because a lot of times as a woman, we can't come to y'all. We literally have to go to another woman. We cannot come to y'all. Sometimes the stuff that we're going to have to address through the process of watching you all build these foundations for these decisions that that you have to make in your God consciousness, and the things that you believe will be most beneficial for the legacy that you want to leave in the earth as the leader. Sometimes we just literally have to go to another woman and say, hey, I need you to pray over me. I'm struggling with this right now, and I definitely don't want to burden my purpose person with the struggle that I'm feeling. I don't want to burden him with that. Yeah, I'm intelligent, I'm wise, I'm smart, but this right here is very, very scary. Or we may have to just go into our closet and pray and come out after we've had that little talk with Jesus and say, hey, honey, I am really scared right now. What you said that you're getting ready to do, it makes me really, really scared, but I trust the God in you. I trust the God in you. I'm scared. I'm very, very scared, but I truly do trust the God in you. And if I give you that nervous energy, just know that I trust the God in you, but in my humanity, I am scared. And so that's where that communication comes in, and that man is gonna come to you and say, "Hey, babe, I got you. I got us. I got our family. We're gonna be all right. No matter what happens, we are going to be good. You got my word that I'm not going anywhere. You have my word that I'm gonna take care of us. You have my word that I'm gonna do whatever it takes to get us to where we need to be." So, relationships are challenging, but they are very much so able to be made healthy, strong, and valuable. And two people can take the journey and have an amazing process. I know Reese wanted to jump in. I know Joe wanted to say something as well. Reese, I'm gonna lean into you.
So and thank you. I love what's been said so far. Here's my question though. We talked about, brother Joseph. I too have been married. Brother Joseph, I too was a single dad for 9 years. My ex-wife decided it was a better idea to leave and then leave me with our 3 children. I was okay with that. They were 5, 4, and 18 months, and I had them for almost 9 years as a single dad. But I was asking, as you were talking, I was typing into the chat, what happens when her traumas are manifesting, for lack of a better way to put it? She loves you. She wants you. She wants this relationship. She wants to be there. And this, I'm talking in the beginning of the relationship, because we're talking about how do we establish these things. Do we just say and expect that she goes along with it? Well, listen, I ain't arguing, because I don't like to argue. I don't like to fight. Now, will I debate? Yes, until the cows come home, and you have to be real good to get past me. But when I'm sorry, forgive me. It just is what it is. What it is. My daddy taught me, listen, if you don't consider your thoughts, their thoughts, and the truth, you have nothing to bring to the table. So I make it my business to approach conversations like that. I've got to know where you're coming from, as opposed to just saying, well, this is what I feel. Here is why, because that's when we get off into coming off as narcissistic, coming off as being controlling, and we never want to make our mate feel like that, especially up front. Trust is a choice. She had to prove to trust us. My experience in relationships has been, where I have failed, and I have failed miserably a lot of times. And I'll say that I have. What I'm learning is what my issue had been up to this point was I used this and my ability to manipulate the situation by my words, the way I can twist things, the way I can read into and get into your emotions, and I didn't use these enough. So what happens when we put this in front of she would get professional help up front? Either go, no, we can't say that. We can't just put that on she. I'm responding to the brother Walker. We can't just put that on she. We are in a joint relationship. This is what we do together. So to sit that on she and she alone without considering, hey, guess what? I've got some stuff that I've got to deal with. I've got some stuff I've got to deal with too. Go ahead, take your time, brother.
No, he's saying it from the perspective of before you get into the relationship. Now, some things there are trigger points to where some things may trigger something, but I do agree that it's that responsibility as far as the health of our emotions and things like that, and dealing with stuff that happened prior to that person showing up. I do agree that that person needs to seek professional support, and not only just once, but ongoing until they're at that place of peace internally. Not to say that they can't get married if they're competent, you know what I mean? Because you can be competent and still have to deal with some areas that happen from the former things of old. It may be some years down the line before those things totally get to a place of complete and total healing. But in the inception, if I meet you and there's something that every time I turn around, you triggered by this, you have to go get some professional help. I'm gonna lean to Joseph, and then we're gonna go to Lawrence.
Interesting about, and I even like what Lawrence said, and even what you said, Koffe, with the trauma. I'm a communicator. We're gonna talk about it. We're gonna communicate. We're gonna talk about it over and over and over again. Because I need to know what I'm getting. That's a huge part of it when we talk about finding a woman that's suitable for you. And I'm not even talking about extreme traumas that require a whole lot of therapy, just regular stuff. You know, my fiance, she's had some traumatic things, but we had some discussions. What does that mean? How does that affect you? How does that stop you? Does that stop you from moving forward? And you said something, Koffe, that I kind of believe it. You said if the dude is right, you just flow with it, kind of like. And so I remember she said to me, she said, hey, I can tell that if I want to be with you, she said this, I didn't say this. So she said, I can tell that if I want to be with you, I'm going to have to grow and change in some things. And as we continue to build our relationship, people would say to me, hey, how have you dealt with her attitude, or have you dealt with her? And I'm like, who are you talking about? Because she doesn't do that. She don't act like that. And they were flabbergasted that I was like, we don't argue. She's not what you're saying. And they said, well, it must be you. And, you know, grace of God and all that, you know, I don't, you know, profess to be anything special. All I know is, according to her, she felt like I've had traumatic situations, but what I want with you is bigger than that. And that's a choice she had to make. I didn't disregard what she went through, but I have to make the decision if, as a man, as a leader, is what she's been through and how she is and what her triggers are going to stop what I believe God is calling me to do. Mm-hmm. That's a question that you have to ask, because if you flip it and some man is cussing you out and hitting you upside the head and he's telling you, oh, baby, you got to be patient with me because that's how I grew up. She don't have to be patient with that at all. She can say, you know what? That's not what I want. And I'm going to holler at you. Mm-hmm. And a man can do the same thing. I know you've seen your mama and daddy fighting and fist fighting. I get it. I can appreciate it. But baby, that's not what we're going to build if we're going to be together. Now, sweetie, you have a decision to make. Mm-hmm. And if that's a decision you're not going to make, then this isn't going to work. The same way, if I'm a fool talking to her crazy, cussing her out, drinking, other women, and I try to use my past as an excuse, no woman buys that as an excuse. Then how come men have to buy as an excuse that I'm a woman with an attitude because of what I've been through? That's not a good enough excuse for me, and it's not a good enough excuse for you. We're gonna communicate this thing, and we're gonna make a decision that can we set those things aside and move forward. And if the answer is no, we don't need to be together. And you got to be strong enough to say that.
I love it. I love it. I know that Lawrence wanted to hop in real quick, and then Jason, and then we're gonna be wrapping up, y'all. This is awesome. I'm gonna have y'all back, honey, because listen, we need another round of this. This is getting juicy. Go ahead, Lawrence. This is getting good.
I definitely think it's twofold. One, I do believe that it helps, I'll say this much, for a person to get help for past traumas. I think that that's something that, matter of fact, I think every person in the world, in our culture, should have some type of therapist, should have some type of counseling, because the thing that I've learned through the years is that people get into relationships hoping that someone else will make them whole. Now, that's not to say that you can't help a person to sort of nurture some of the pains that they may have gone through, but a lot of the relationships and a lot of the struggles that people go through in relationships are a direct result of something that transpired in their past that had nothing to do with the person that they're with now. And so there's a phrase that I always tell people. I said, listen to me now, I said, if you don't get help for your hurts, all you're going to do is bleed on people that didn't cut you. And so a lot of people are bleeding on other people, and they had nothing to do with what they are, sort of dealing with. So the point I'm making is, I have seen through the last 10 years at least, where couples are together, and it's like the only thing they're doing is trying to deal with red flags, trying to deal with past trauma, trying to deal with things that have happened in another relationship, the lack of trust. So if a person was in a relationship where they got cheated on, now you're trying to go into a relationship with somebody else, and now your conscience is telling you that he's going to do the same thing or she's going to do the same thing, and so you never have a healthy relationship because you're holding on to some trauma from another relationship. So that's why I always say that every person, I don't care who you are, one, if you've been in a relationship, been married, and it didn't work, you need to do a relationship autopsy and find out, what did this relationship die of? What part did I play in this relationship, this marriage dying? Because most times, like for me, and I'm gonna say this, I'm done. I remember my marriage prior to, I was dealing with, listen to this now, I was dealing with past trauma from my family, my parents, right? My parents used to argue, fuss, and fight. And so we used to go break up the fights. We're like 8, 9, 10 years old. They're fighting. Hey, they're fighting. Go break them up. And so what I realized, my brother and I were on the phone. We were in our 40s. Watch this, Jason. We were in our 40s on the phone talking one night, and we started talking about our childhood. Man, my brother and I in our 40s were crying like babies because we dug up the root of what had happened in our past. I then go back and apologize to my ex-wife and say, hey, it wasn't you, it was me. I was dealing with baggage that I was carrying that wasn't even mine. That's why I'm saying that everybody needs to get some type of therapy and counseling. And I tell my members this all the time. I say, you can ignore it all you want to, but it's going to catch up with you. Because it's just a matter of time. It's going to catch up with you. You're going to be trying to figure out, why can't this relationship work? Why does this relationship work? Well, you're dealing with rejection from your daddy, from your mom. You got daddy issues. You got all of these things going on. And now you're trying to figure out why this is not working. You got too many triggers. Get some help and stop bleeding on people that didn't cut you.
I love it. I love it. Go ahead, Jason.
I'm just going to make this short and sweet. There are a lot of things that we never knew, but we had to learn them. If you have a degree, you went to school to learn that. If you have a job, you had to learn your position. And a lot of people get stuck in, this is who I am.
Right.
But that doesn't necessarily have to be.
Right.
Because they use the excuse, well, I didn't have an example growing up. I didn't have an example of a father growing up. I didn't have a good example of a mother growing up. That means nothing. That was when you were a child. Like David said, when I was a child, I thought as a child, I spoke as a child, I understood as a child. But when I grew up, I had to put away some childish things. There are some things we just have to, within ourselves, understand and know we have to grow up. The only reason why you are stuck in who you are is because you don't want to change. We all have to change. That's the most consistent thing in life. Change.
That's a fact.
The older you get, without even asking, your body will change. Trust me, I just celebrated my 50th and things are changing.
Brother, I'm with you. Hey, brother Jason, I'm with you, because when you get to the point where they ask you, are you 55? And you're like, I don't want to tell you the truth. Your body gonna tell you. Yeah, brother, I'm with you on that. Now, listen, I got an appointment in a couple of weeks with my doctor because things ain't working like they used to.
Y'all are hilarious.
These ain't let me get down and get up like I used to, brother.
Brother
Y'all are hilarious.
Brother Jason said something that's true. He was talking about how we don't have to stay in the shape that we're in, or we can't make excuses about who and how we came up. And one of the things that I wanted to add to that, like, I grew up in a house where I never heard my parents say, I love you or I'm proud of you, right? And so I used to say this when I was like 15, 16. I said, man, if I ever have kids, they will never, ever grow up saying, I never heard my daddy say, I love you. I never heard my daddy say, I'm proud of you. So ever since my son was born, my son is 37 now. Ever since my son's been in the world, he always heard me say, I love you. He always heard me say, I'm proud of you. My son's birthday was about 3 weeks ago. I went to Atlanta. I always take him out on his birthday. And every time we see each other, it's still now. He's 37. We always embrace each other. I kiss him on his cheek at 37 years old. He always hears, I love you. So his sons say the same thing all the time to him and to me. And because I wasn't going to make an excuse and say, well, I ain't never heard nobody say it to me. No, change what you didn't like coming up and be better.
Come on, brother, talk good. Come on, brother, talk. Listen, that's good. My oldest daughter right here, my oldest daughter will be 36 this year. And that's one of the things that we made it our business to do. I have 5 kids. The oldest is 36, the youngest will be 25 this year. And That's one thing I said. I'm gonna make sure my kids understand that I love them. They have to hear that. That's
Yeah.
validation, so that they're not spending their entire life looking for validation in all these places that their father would never put them. My father taught me, he said, listen, when I got married, it is your job to love her at least the way her father and her brothers do. Now, she may have lived in an apartment, lived by herself, and been out of her parents' house for a while, but you're picking her up and you're picking this person up, and you are taking that responsibility and that place, and it's your job to love her at least as much as they do.
That's good.
And that's one of the things. That's one of the things that we won't talk about. We won't say. I appreciate you for saying that, brother. Good God.
I love it. Well, we have come to the top of the hour. I mean, this has been a phenomenal conversation. We're going to have these guys back. It's the verdict is in. We got to have these guys back. And the other guy that was in the comments, he got to come over here too. He got to come on here too. We need him on here too. And we're going to turn around after we get done with these amazing men. We'll have some ladies to hop in and have some dialogues and discussions. This was really, 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 really good. I am super excited about everything that you guys shared on tonight and how valuable it is. If you didn't get the live experience and you're watching the replay, make sure you connect with each and every one of these thought leaders on their social media platforms. So many amazing things that they're embarking upon and doing and getting ready to do some crazy, amazing things as we forge forward into 2024. And I'm just ecstatic to have had them present with us. Can I count on y'all to come back? Can I count on y'all to come back? Can y'all come on? Can y'all come on back?
We cannot listen. This group, we cannot not come back.
Yes.
You gonna tell them about our large seminar in Texas, Koffe?
Yes. We were just talking about that before. Before we went live, we've had live presentations like that and great dope conferences, and definitely we're gonna be embarking upon some amazing things for this 2024 year. This is gonna be the best year yet, the best year of our lives thus far, and it's only going to go up from here. So thank you guys for tuning in and tapping in. Again, be sure to like, share, and follow this. Give it to your friends, your neighbors, your relatives, and let them know that the P. Koffe Brown Show is in full effect, and these amazing men have shared some wonderful things about legacy and leadership. We're going to hit it one more time and close out this series with these amazing men and talk further and dive a little bit deeper. And listen, don't be sensitive, honey. Don't be sensitive. Put on your big girl panties, because they may take us on a journey. You know, that next conversation may be a little bit heavy, but they're going to take us on a journey. They're not going to hurt us. Just put on your big girl panties. It's going to be all right. It's going to be all right. But thank y'all for tuning in and tapping in. I'm your host, P. Koffe Brown, and we will see you guys again for another edition of the P. Koffe Brown Show. Until then, double shalom, grace, and peace, and we'll see you guys again soon. Peace.
Thank you so kindly.